Alright, it's been a little while, but I'm back to do a few squadrons. I've got a tournament coming up, and it includes a bunch of YT-2400s. Obviously, this one's already been painted. This is a really easy one to paint. All this one took was a primer, a base coat of gray, and a wash with Nuln oil, and a little engine glow, I guess. That was it. It went really fast. I'm going to do 5 more of these, and I'm going to change it up a little bit from each one. A couple of them I'm probably going to do a little extra detailing on and see how it goes. This should go relatively fast though. I've already pre-shaken all of my paints, so that's all good to go. I've already primed my my minis, the YT-2400s, and we're going to start. And first one, we're going to do some Screaming Skull. And just like all of my painting, I always water down my paints a bit. Now, these are quite a bit different than doing Mel's miniatures. They're so small, they look way better painted, but I don't fuss about them too much because they are so small. There's no sense stressing too much about them. These ones especially are super easy. The Falcons, the YT-1300s, are all pretty easy. Some of them, you know, X-Wings can get a little tricky sometimes, but I still try not to stress about it too much. And again, with any base coat, just gonna cover the entire thing. See if my straw holders are gonna hold up here. Again, don't stress too much. Just most of these are just going to get a good base coat and wash them. Like I said, I'm going to try a little bit more detailing on a few. Maybe not even a few. Let's see, we'll do 2 of them with the Screaming Skull. I think I'm going to start with the bottom a little bit better so I can not get so much paint on my finger from having to hold it on. Did notice a lot of people have still been watching my previous videos. I appreciate it. I do plan to get some more going soon. Actually, right now, in terms of the custom 3D printed ones from Mel's, I do want to get an order in soon, but I'm going back and forth on what I want to order. Mel has a couple of new models up that I really like. I can't afford to get them all though, so we'll see. Hopefully within the next week or 2 we'll come up with an order and get to painting those. Alright, so now we're just going to go with the Celestial Gray. So this is the same as the one that I've already got painted there. Clearing out my brush. Get out some water. A little bit gray. And again, when you water these down, you know, and you're doing these squads, just a dab of paint with the water is going to get you through a few of them. You don't use much paint at all on these. especially on the bottom, there's no need to stress because it's the least seen part of your models anyways, at least when you're playing. And these little ones, people don't tend to pick them up and examine them too close. I do know from me anyways, it makes the game a lot more fun to play with painted minis. Alright, and we're gonna do 2 more here. Trying to do 2 things at once. This is going to be a darker gray. Mechanicus standard gray. And this, I'm not sure. I'm going to see how it goes. I might do both of the last ones with the same color. We'll see. Sometimes with the dark ones, obviously it's a lot easier to see how the painting's going, whether you have full coverage or not. The big question is going to be whether these are dry enough, if I'm going to have to. It doesn't matter to you. It'll all be instantaneous to you, but I may have to do some editing instead of just doing a straight through video, because I'm sure you don't want to sit here and watch paint dry, so I don't either. This paint does tend to dry very fast, but I've been burned a couple of times going a little too quick with my painting, and it's not quite dry enough. Alright, let's wash out this brush and then we'll see if one of those first ones. So, if any of you have seen my hammerhead video, I wanted to do 1 or 2 of these, probably 2 of them. Slightly different secondary paints, but I want to do them in a similar paint job. So for that, for the ones that I went with the Screaming Skull, that was the base coat for the hammerhead. And then I went with this Genestealer Purple, and then a wash, and I liked how that came out a lot on the hammerheads, so I figured I'd do that with a couple of these. Just want to see. These do seem pretty dry. Check the other one too. Yeah, they're pretty dry. So we're going to go right into some purple. Of course, if I mess up, not too big a deal. I will just move on, let them dry, redo the base coat. Come on. So we're going to go with the Genestealer Purple. see how this works on other ships. I just really like the way the Hammerhead came out with this. I want to see how it comes out on other things, and I may end up doing a whole fleet of this paint scheme just because I liked it a lot. I'm going with a really fine brush. I just want to put a couple of details on here with the purple. And again, these are so small, it's a little hard to tell where it is that you want to paint. And again, the wash is going to clean up a lot of this. So again, I don't stress too much about it. I know I'm saying that a lot, but it's one of the things that I had to get through in order to paint these. Just need a closer look at this. All right. Also, in this case, it can help to look at the one that you've already put the wash on. So when you do that, you can see where the wash is going to fall. And alright, I think that's enough of that one. And again, you have to be able to look a little bit ahead here, because the wash cures most ills. Got a little extra flashing in this one. Again, I'm not going to worry about it too much. So I'm just going to do a couple of bits. So I'm finding, not sure how much detailing is going to help on these, but I don't know that it's going to help at all, but how much it will enhance them, I guess I should say. You might be wondering why I have so many of these. Well, if you look at the stats on them, they're really nice. They're pretty much A-wings with Rogue. They don't have counter, but they do have a black anti-ship dice. They've got the same anti-squad dice as an A-wing. You just get Rogue instead of counter. And counter's nice, but I was going with a list that I don't really have a good carrier in order to activate them. So I decided to go with these, mostly because I got a bunch of rogues and villains for the holidays. Something that I've always wanted to have a little bit more of, and now I've got plenty of it. Alright, we'll see how that goes. These other ones, I'm going to do, I'm not going to use all these colors. Let's see, for the really dark grays, something pretty light, I think. We'll go with the light gray one first, and actually we're going to go with the red with the light gray. I'm going to see if I've got a nice light color for one of the others. Just going to go with a couple of touches of red here. There we go. For one of the dark grays, maybe we'll try this stone. I'm not sure how well it's going to show up. And then the other one I'm just going to leave as is. Just put a wash up on it. And we'll put the wash on all of these. Let that dry. All these muted colors for another project that I'm doing. Hopefully post some pictures of it soon. with this darker paint, I can see a little bit more detail with it. Which is making it a little bit easier. Did forget, I do a dry brush of this afterwards, usually with the base color. I might try a couple with a secondary color or dry brush instead. Alright, see how that goes. Always make sure that these get pushed down all the way too. Been burned many a time by not getting them pushed down all the way. Alright, so now I need to do a wash on these. So now we'll see how the shading just makes everything pop a little bit more. It looks messy at first, but the shade you do have to work it around, get it into all the crevices. Once you do that, all those little details that you weren't sure tend to pop a little bit more. Yeah, there you go. Some of those little bits of purple tend to start popping out a little bit. The underside. And the wash, I like to work it around and work it around until it's nice, even spread of it, where you're getting, you know, you've got all the details and lines in there. This is where you also see, even though these little tiny models, I mean, they're tiny, you wonder, you know, why bother? Well, just putting the shade on, just put a base, just put a single color on there. You don't even probably have to prime it. Just a single color and a shade, and you can see that FFG has put a lot of nice little details into these models that you really can't see until you paint them. And the shade is what really makes them pop. Like that. So now that little messy purple doesn't look quite so messy anymore. And you're getting a lot of shine out of it right now because it's wet, but once that dries, it'll be really nice, and then we'll do a little dry brush on it. And again, try and keep this one in better focus for you to see as this goes. Try and get that to focus. Actually, you're seeing this a lot bigger than I can see it. So again, just start putting on the wash and working it around. As you go, the wash just starts settling into the crevices really nicely. And all those little highlight colors start to make more sense than they did before. And again, I think the first thing I ever painted for Armada was a YT-1300, a Falcon. And I did it just like this pretty much. Just I primed it, put a base coat of a light gray on there, celestial gray I think, and then washed it with normal oil and gave it a little dry brush with a little bit more gray. And I think that's what got me started with the painting, because it turned out to be so much easier than I thought it was going to be. So I do recommend, these are great ways to practice and start learning your technique. They're tiny little things. You almost can't mess them up, especially if you're just doing a base coat and a wash. You can't mess them up. Just go in and do them. They look so much better on the table. Than flying them out of the box. It only takes a couple of minutes to do it too. So I am going to let these dry after I get the wash on them. So the wash takes a little bit longer to dry, and then I will come back, do a little dry brush, put a little onion glow in there, and they'll be done. And we'll show you them all close up. Might try a couple of different things today with the dry brushing. I might go with a secondary color on some of these to dry brush them. Give them a little. Something that I don't do a lot is dry brushing with something other than the base coat. I've tended to go safe with the dry brushing. You just go with the base coat. Maybe we'll experiment a little bit with some of the base coats, like maybe with this one, which I've got this one's just dark gray with a wash. Maybe we'll go with a light gray, a light gray dry brush on it or something like that. See what that does. And again, I don't worry about it too much. It's all gonna look way better than what it looked like out of the box. Remember, Star Wars is a lived-in universe. It's supposed to look like junk, right? Except for for the Rebel stuff anyways. I guess the Imperial stuff is supposed to look kind of new and shiny and pristine most of the time. Rebel stuff, or scum stuff, whatever you want to call these things. These are scum and villainy. So I guess Dash Rendar isn't villainy, so he must be scum, I guess. But anyways, he's more worried about doing his thing than necessarily having the coolest looking ship doing it. Just like Han Solo, more worried about the way the Falcon runs than what it looks like on the outside. Alright, so I'll be right back with a dry brush. Alright, so the shade has dried, the wash is dried. So now I'm gonna just dry brush these a little bit. Trying to get you a good look at this. Happy with how they all came out. So we're just gonna do this first couple. I got my hammerhead out here. I'm trying to keep them in line with the hammerhead in case like I said, I really like the way that one came out. And I'm just trying to do a few things of each type with a similar paint scheme, so that eventually I can maybe have a fleet of stuff using that paint scheme. So I'm just working some paint in and out of the brush as usual until there's almost nothing left. And this, so what the dry brushing does is it helps pick up some of those high raised areas, like the gun here, the edges of the cockpit, the leading edges and trailing edges of the ship, and it just tends to create a little bit more dimension to it. So the shade adds a bunch of dimension, but then the dry brushing adds yet another layer of dimension to it. But again, I'm not gonna go crazy over these because they're so tiny. Where the bigger ships I spend a bit more time on. So that looks pretty good. This one is the other one in that same paint scheme. Doing the same thing. The only thing I don't like about dry brushing is it feels like you're wasting so much paint because you have to load up the brush and then work almost all of the paint out of the brush. You already get it to do what you want it to do. I always try and work more paint out. Just try and work more paint out of the brush just so that I can because you can always do more dry brushing. I've a couple of times not worked enough paint out of the brush when dry brushing, and yeah, you're in trouble kind of. You kind of have to start over again a little bit. So this one I'm noticing a little bit on this airlock that I missed with the wash there a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. Sorry about that, got interrupted, but I'm gonna move on now to the others. Like I had said before, I was gonna try and do a light gray dry brush on one of these dark gray ones that I did. So let's try that first. So I kind of like this. Just brighten it up a little bit. Again, we don't worry too much about the underside. So I like that, so we're going to do that with all of these. The other dark gray one and the light gray one. Again, try not so much of this dry brushing is quick movements, but you also need to take your time a little bit with it and really make sure you get all that paint out. You don't want to put a glob of paint someplace, because you're so close to the end now. You want to make sure that you're not putting yourself back at square one. And I spend a lot less time on the bottom. So after I do this other one, the only thing left is to do a little engine glow. That's super simple on this one. This one has a really nice, well-defined engine slot. So it goes really quick. Then I'll just put them all on their stands and come back and show you the final result. Kind of like how this one came out here. Trying to do this before my camera runs out of battery. It's been complaining at me. Alright, so there's that. Now we'll just really quick do a little engine glow. Again, my favorite engine glow, which I use on almost everything, is this Lutheran blue. It's by far my favorite. This is one of the times when I don't feel like I need to water down the paint. So I want that. So I really want this to pop when we're looking at it, plus we're doing such a fine brush. And again, this one has a really nice, well-defined engine slot, so makes it pretty easy to get in there. You don't have to worry as much about making a mistake. I also think, you know, these squadrons are definitely the best thing to practice on. I did a whole bunch of these before, of all the different types, before I ever tried to do any of the capital ships. Let me get some confidence, because I felt like if I screwed up one of these, it wasn't a huge deal. they weren't painted to begin with. Individually on a squad by squad basis, they don't cost that much, and you can always repaint them. So I definitely encourage you to try and paint some. And again, I mean, this is to do these 5 with multiple colors here. It's taken me less than an hour while trying to videotape it for you. I wasn't worried about the camera and having to work around it and make sure I kept things mostly in frame. Then I could have done it a lot quicker probably too. But that's it for now. I'm going to charge up my camera. I will get these all on stands and come back and just quickly wrap it up. Thank you. Alright, so they're all dry and all set. These couple here I did to match the hammerhead. See if we can get it to focus. So like how this one came out quite a bit. You can see how, even though as it went on, the purple was pretty sloppy, but once you get the wash in there, and it fills in all those edges, it really hides a lot of your sloppiness. I like the washes a lot. So this one, and I think this one were probably my favorites. I'm not going to show you them all super close up or anything. I think this one will probably be my Dash Rendar one now. I like it with a little bit of red added in as opposed to just being gray like the original. I like the little highlights of red in the gray. The others I liked the dark gray ones where I did the light gray dry brush. I like how they came out. It has a nice metallic look to it, I guess. So I do like how those came out. Something a little bit different. I always like to try different things, and I find that these squadrons are one of the best places to try new things. You know, sometimes some things just can't be tried because they're so small, but sometimes just little things like that are great things to try. So we'll see how this list with all these YT-2400s goes. It should be fun regardless. But thank you very much. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm going to try and keep doing some different painting videos. I've got some structures that I've purchased for Legion that I'm going to try putting together fairly soon. Just do some videos on those. Completely different from the Armada structures, doing the Armada ships, doing you know, these little structures that are going to be hopefully in scale and usable with Legion. So thank you very much. We'll see you next time.